Hi, everyone. We're so glad that you're here for our episode, Yay4Tech2Try. We have the Merrills on. Mine is Kristen. But we're so glad to have Joe. Joe and Kristen are teachers and authors of the interactive class series that you can see on the screen. They put a spin on traditional strategies by infusing ed tech with learning that meets the needs of all students. They're amazing. They are all over social, sharing amazing ideas. And what I love most, they're living the life just like we are, of being in the classroom every day. And so when they're talking about it, they actually understand exactly how everyone's feeling and what we're all going through. So Joe, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. I apologize, Kristen wasn't able to make it, but something came up last minute. Promise you it was nothing major, but I appreciate you guys having us. And we're super excited to be back to you. It seems like this is like a tradition now at this point.
It has been awesome. We just appreciate the support. When we think of people that are trying new things in technology, we thought completely of you guys. So let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
One of our favorite tools and your favorite tools is Canva. And so we'll have these slides for our audience with links. If they click on this Canva AI tools icon, it takes them to an awesome slides presentation that links all of the magic within Canva now. All the tools are just amazing. So Joe, talk to us about what you guys are loving most with Canva, the AI tools. How are you using this in the classroom?
Sure. So one of the things that we love about it is that there's something for everybody, right? It doesn't matter if you're a brand new to educator to Canva or if you're a seasoned pro, there's going to be something there that you can use and you can use like right away. For example, let's look at the templates that you guys found. So those nonsense words, if you're a primary teacher, let's say that you're looking for some words maybe to do like in a center. You want to make sure that you have this ready to go for maybe next week. You can go on to Canva and you can now type in 4 or 5 keywords about what you're looking for. And when you hit that enter button, what's going to happen is it's going to generate some really quality results that are directed at what you're specifically looking at. Sorry, excuse me. And so as you can see right here, like these nonsense words, I mean, that looks great, looks pretty. The teachers are going to love that design, right? That's really important. It's engaging for the kids, but more importantly, like now you can differentiate so much quicker because you're able to generate this. You can change out those words for your groups. There's just a lot of possibilities there. If you're a little bit more on the heavier user side, so maybe you're somewhere in the middle, you can quickly look through the templates to find different things. For example, like I see like that solar eclipse presentation there, you can generate things for your students, right? Or let me back that up. Your students can generate their own things. So let's say, for example, that your kids were on and they were learning about the different types of eclipse that go on, and they wanted to do a special project on the solar eclipse. They could very easily type in those words, generate the content design, and then go back in and edit it. And that's the key, right? It's not the final product as you enter in those keywords. It's just something to kind of speed up the designing process, kind of give them those creative juices going, get that flow going so that they can go in and they can edit that out as they see fit. One that we also love, and this would be more of like a level up from all of that, would be the magic media. If you're familiar with Canva, that used to be actually called text to image. And the reason why it's not called text to image anymore is because now there's video. So you can quickly type in a few different keywords that you want to use, and it will actually create a video for you, and it'll can also create a picture. This was really neat. I did something for our literacy week with our school a couple weeks ago where our media specialist was like, hey, our principal really wants to do something with Humpty Dumpty on the wall. Can you do something with that? And I'm like, sure. So I quickly typed in Canva and it generated like a 4 or 5 second like looping video. It was perfect and it actually looked really good. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do with that. And of course, like the icing on the cake level up would be all the different tools put together. If you took that magic media idea, you could then take that, download it. You could remove the background from it. You can remove certain images from it. So like in that volcano picture, for example, let's say that you wanted that volcano instead of in that orange background, you could actually remove the background of that volcano and you could put it maybe like in a rainforest, right? So now you're actually taking the different types of tools and you're integrating them with one another. So the possibility with Canva really is endless.
Yeah, and it looks so professional. With my high school kids, the Discover the Hiking right there in the middle, and then we did the one on the right with the infographic. Last week we did a huge capstone project, and they had to design their own expeditions. They had to go to 2 different places. They had all these parameters. They built them in Canva, and they look like something a travel agency would use.
That's
and the
awesome.
kids took so much pride in what they made. The infographics are so neat. So I have really started using it a lot with my older kids. We've kind of pushed away from Google Slides. We use it when we need something real fast. But because Canva shares so easy between them, they can collaborate. I mean, it is just, I'm with you, Joe, such quality we get out of it.
And, Elaine, you mentioned something that it looks like what some of the different businesses were using. And the truth of the matter is it is what they're using. They are using Canva. And so, a lot of times we talk, when Chris and I talk, we talk about these soft skills now, because a lot of teachers don't take into consideration all the different skills that go into some of these different things. And these are skills that they're going to be using way past our classroom, right? For example, copying and pasting, duplicating, things like that we don't even think twice about, right? Double clicking, triple clicking, whatever that looks like. We never think about that, but those are soft skills that you're just kind of integrating throughout your instruction as you go along, that they're going to take way further down their academic careers than what we're taking into consideration. And so, as you had mentioned, like, so just using these different things, they're using these skills, and they're going to use these skills because these businesses are using this tool. And so by really narrowing it down and focusing at an early age and making sure they understand it, and it doesn't matter if you're using Canva, Adobe, whatever you might be using, for the most part, a lot of these tools do the same things and they look a lot alike. So if the kids are familiar with how it works, they're going to be able to go cross-platform no matter what that looks like and be able to use it.
You know what? I really like the fact that you said that it's not something that's taught separately. It's just part of your daily routine, and it's just integrated within the projects you're doing. You're teaching those soft skills, and I love that. But, a lot of teachers get slightly frustrated, like, how do I teach a primary student these kind of concepts? And because I hear that all the time when I'm plugging that stuff in with my kids. So are there any special strategies that you use for teaching kids tech in order to build it as you go throughout your year?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I do with them first, and it's pretty strategic actually. So we first teach them how to add a background so let me back up a second. So we usually tell the kids when they're creating on Canva, we like them to design the size as a presentation size, mainly because that is the same size as a YouTube video. It's the same size as a presentation. It just fits. And so if you have them pick a presentation design, even if it's not a video, they can make it into a video, but it just works really well for that particular size. So once they pick that and we teach them that, we show them how to add a background. And Canva has that really cool trick where if you have kids that are using mice and they're a little older that can do it, they can swipe one over, no, sorry, not swipe, but click and drag one over from the elements. And if they just hover it over the side line of the canvas, it'll snap the background right into it automatically. They don't even have to do anything. But of course, we show them all the different ways in case they can't figure it out. But having that background piece is huge because then that teaches them that that's the foundational layer. Right. And then you add in a text box. And now you have to show them, okay, and now that you've added a text box, let me show you where the layers are at, because now that's going to be important, because what if we add another image on top of this and it's blocking the text? So then they start to get familiar with the layers. And once they know the layers, they can get really creative with it, because then they have the ability to, hide some of the text. Like a lot of commercials, like Verizon does that. So we started showing examples of that. And it's really, really neat that they can just go skyrocket from there. So it's really just about building like those initial skills. And once they have those down, they're good to go.
Love that.
I love it. Well, we're getting ready to talk about Flip, which is another one of our favorites. I knew that that would make our list today. As we move on to the next slide, a video may pop up. It is March, so Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and it was a video that one of my students filmed for one of my other students for World Down Syndrome Day.
Hi Nora, it's Avery, and I just wanted to tell you some reasons why we all really appreciate you. You're kind. You're kind to everyone, even if they're a little bit grumpy that day and they're not the kindest. You care. You care about everyone when they're hurt, and you run straight to them and try to help them. Or when they're mad or upset, you go straight to them to figure out what's happening and see how you can help. You are excited to do things. Even when it's something really boring, like a spelling test, not the funnest, you always have the best attitude, and you're like, I'm ready to rock it. You're so awesome, Nora. Thank you so much for being a great friend, and I hope we're friends forever, because you're one of my nicest friends. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye!
So, I mean, let's talk about building community, and just, it's so much more than a recording platform. And the students surprised their classmate with all of these videos, and then took it a step further, and we created the QR codes, and they made a little scrapbook for her so that she would always have these videos with her. I mean, it's amazing. It's not just, oh, we're going to record a presentation. I mean, you can look at all of these pictures and tell really quickly the skills the kids are gaining, the empathy they have for others. So we just wanted to see what some of your favorite uses of Flip is in the classroom.
I absolutely love this video. This was so adorable. And, you know, if you really pay attention, like you mentioned, Karisa, if you really pay attention, she really thought that through really well. You know, we were just talking about soft skills. If you watch that video carefully, she was pausing the video so that it didn't seem like it was interrupted. So therefore, when you watch it back, it's like this very fluid motion, and it doesn't feel like there's hiccups in it, right? So we teach that to the kids really early on, you know, when they're in kindergarten even. Like, you have to press that pause button so that way you can gather your thoughts, so you know what you're going to say before you start hitting record. And so just watching that back, like, she's got that, right? She's golden. And the message behind it is so amazing. And you know, like you had mentioned, Chris, the community behind Flip is just, it's uncompared to anything else that we've ever seen. And, you know, one of the reasons why we love it too is just because how well it works with all of these other tools. And so, for example, like we were talking about Canva, you can very easily download one of your Canva presentations, videos. You can upload that right into Flip and it will work. A lot of people think like, oh, well, if I make it in Canva, it has to stay in Canva. That's not true. You can even download the Canva slides as an image and as a backdrop, so that they would be in the back and they could be in the front of the video. A lot of kids figure this out, and they almost arrange it like a YouTube video where like they're all in the bottom corner, or maybe even where they're, you know, hitting that pause button like she was doing in there. That's the nature of their videos now. That's what they're used to seeing when they watch things on YouTube. That's what they want their videos to look like. And so it really does force them, though, to stop and think, which is why we love Flip. It's not just about the creation of a video. It's about thinking beyond what you're having on paper and pencil. You can do a word problem on a whiteboard and work through it. That's great. And if you can get the correct answer, even better. But if you can now hold that up and explain that to somebody else, that's a whole new level of critical thinking. And so that's why we love Flip so much, just because it plays so well with other apps, and because it forces kids to really think through what they're doing and explain it. And if they can explain it, they retain it.
Yeah, I like that you said that. You know, again, my big kids, we're using Flip a lot, so that I can assess them whether they've made a prototype, or they're presenting something to me or sharing to their class. And I tell you what, Joe, my big kids absolutely love the teleprompter part, because they are typing up what they have. They can look right in that camera. They can pause when they need to. And so we're learning, again, that soft skill. You don't just show up with no plan when you're presenting or you're creating something. You know, you take notes. And so they're really, it's brought a whole new dimension, I think, to the quality of the product we get. are just these little things in Flip. And, you know, like you said, sometimes my kids like to have like their little picture in the corner. Sometimes they like to be a part of it and they're popping out of it. And it just makes it so easy. It's so easy to edit and to make it look good. Whereas like in the past, we've used some other screencasting products that it's just, you have to have special anything. And it's just all in here and it all works together, like you said.
Yeah, and I love that there's student accounts too. So, you know, if there's like a lot of times what happens is like our Wi-Fi will drop out at school. A lot of times that project won't be deleted. It'll still be saved so they can recover that. Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing for us because, you know, we have kindergartners that sometimes push that power button instead of hitting enter, you know, because they're kindergarten.
Yeah.
So it's really, really convenient to have that option and that backup on there. And, you know, like I said, we love the fact that it forces kids to, and I shouldn't say force, but it encourages kids to have that inner voice to think through not just what they did, but how they did it.
Well, and also it allows them to make things that are meaningful. They play it back and they say, wait a minute, that's not what I was really intending to do. I didn't kind of come prepared. Mm-hmm. So, you know, with my first graders, we're like, wait a minute, I need to delete that. And then I need to think again and get something together a little bit more. So then it doesn't, my friends are not listening to this and thinking that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You know, I have a funny story about that actually. So just the other day we were doing something and this particular student is got to be in 4th grade now. She told me, she said, we were working on Flip today and I noticed, she wasn't in my class, she noticed that she could now delete her videos. And she says to me, she says, these kids don't know how good they have it now. back when she was in my class, if they posted it, it was up there and I had to be the one to delete it. So it was just so funny because she just was like, wow, we can delete it now ourselves. Like, and that's a huge update because it takes the load off of us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. And I love that, you know, we've shared so many videos with each other that the kids have created. And then we can be collaborators in groups that we've all created to go in and see the kids' videos. I love the mixtape. You string them all together. So easy to share. You know, Dayna's class was studying grasshoppers. And one of my favorite videos I've seen recently, talk about voice and, you know, it was just amazing. And the first grader figured out how to make the background a grasshopper. And then it was his voice talking as if he was the grasshopper. And how awesome for his classmates to watch that video. And then it sparked ideas in their mind. Like, oh my gosh, I never thought about the camera not being me and being the grasshopper and speaking from the grasshopper's point of view. So I also love it as a way for students to share their talents. I mean, there are so many kids that are so talented with coming up with the pause button and snapping their fingers and it flipping to a different screen. I mean, I had a student a couple years ago do the split screen and he was interviewing himself. And I'm like, okay, at some point you have to show me how to do this. And he said, oh, I can run a PD for the class if you want me to. And just makes me laugh because these kids are just little entrepreneurs. I mean, that's really what they are. And it's truly amazing when we give them a platform and an opportunity to just thrive in this kind of environment. It's amazing.
Well, I was going to say, so you're seeing a really common factor here, right? It's because it's creation, right? The creation side of Canva is huge. The creation side of Flip is huge. We constantly talk to educators about how our kids now really should be using creativity over consumption. And these apps just scream that. These kids have the opportunity now to take their talents, whether it's art, whether it's maybe singing or dancing or public speaking, whatever it might be, they can use their talents within these platforms and feel successful. And by doing so, that's just going to make them more invested in their learning.
Absolutely. And you know what I think, going back to that empathy piece that Flip brings to is the fact that each student then can give stars to other people, you know, like they can give that, wow, that was really amazing. And then they have to be very specific of this is what I loved about it. And we just are encouraging each other to try new things within their community and producing, you know, projects that are so amazing and the students are celebrating each other, and they're just finding that way to learn from each other and just encourage each other to be better. I love it.
I love it. Okay, Joe, we're going to lean on you for the next one. Class Companion. You have to share what you know, because I got on, created a teacher account, have just barely scratched the surface. Tell us everything you know about Class Companion.
So Class Companion is a brand new startup that just came out not too long ago, and we met them at FETC. And what's really cool about Class Companion is I feel like this is a product that should have been out like when AI first came out. Basically what it does is it automatically grades student writing. So that right there in and of itself is pretty amazing, right? Now, I will say it is a startup, and so I know they're trying their best to kind of trickle down towards the elementary level. But I would say if you're a 4th grade teacher and on up, this is for you. One of the things that you can do is you create a rubric, and so then that is going to be your foundation of what the AI uses to grade the student writing. You create an assignment. It's really easy to do. The steps are pretty simple. In fact, we have a blog post that I'll get to you guys that walks it through. But basically what you do is you go on, you create this, and then when the kids start to type their essays, once they submit it, you have the option as the educator to decide how many times they can submit it and then resubmit once they receive feedback. But the AI will give them feedback and show them how they can go about increasing their score based on the rubric that you provided.
That's incredible.
It almost acts like a teacher's aide, like an intern.
This is incredible.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. And the best part about it is it's free. And so, I don't know why more people aren't talking about this yet, maybe because it is still so new. But this is going, if they can find a way to keep on trickling down to our neck of the woods, down to the lower grades, then they're really going to be successful. I would say if you're trying this out, one piece of advice is to really dumb down the verbiage in your rubric.
Okay.
It's because this was originally created for university and high school students. And so by really narrowing down that language in your rubric, it'll kind of humanize the AI, and it'll say, okay, this needs to be phrased in a simpler form, in a simpler way. So if you try it, make sure that you really think through your rubric about what it says and how it'll respond. But it's really, really neat. I will say that it grades hard, which I think is a good thing. And I know a lot of states now too, our own here in Florida as well, they are requiring for their writing assessments this year, the state writing test, they're using AI to grade those tests. So I feel like this would be a really great way for the kids to kind of get their level up and kind of get familiar with how their expectations are going to eventually evolve to.
I feel like that, like this type of thing, again, I'm in high school, but even like when Karisa is in the 4th grade was doing all those, all right, we got to do a narrative. All right, we got to do at our high school level, the English teachers, for me, when I'm trying to get them to write scientific, what an incredible way, rather than me having to be the one to make sure their summary paragraph is constructed correctly and has no personal pronouns. And oh my gosh, to be able to do a run through with them. And then, like you said, okay, now redo it. Now see where you're at. Because for all teachers in America, we're all graded on this high stakes test. How well can you write this, English paragraph about the best summer of your life? And now to have someone to help us grade it, because I think that's what limits us the most, teachers from kindergarten all the way up, is we can only grade so much. Correct. We only have so many hours and so much time. But I mean, like when Karisa told me about this one, it blew my mind, because already I'm churning all these things. I could make them so much better at writing a lab report, because I would have someone to help them write the lab report.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that is really neat about this too, and I forgot to mention, so I apologize, but from the teacher side, you can see if they've copied and pasted. So there's a little bit of a cheat detector there. So, in one instance, a student had looked up how to spell a word off Google and had pasted that. So I was able to see that. And, anytime that comes up, it will be flagged on your side, not on their side. The other thing that's really interesting about it too is if the AI is grading the students and the students feel like perhaps maybe that was not a fair assessment, they can they can do something called dispute the AI. But if they dispute it, then they're not able to resubmit. So what that does, it puts the ball back into your court as the educator, and you have to basically look at that piece of writing and say, no, I think the AI was spot on there. You need to go back and do it. Or you say, you know what? I think that's a good observation. Let's go ahead and as the educator, you can change that score to put it to whatever you think it needs to be.
It's incredible.
Okay, so this was my question. I think you kind of answered it now. Is they have to type directly into this rather than copying in a Google document and putting it in order to help with the cheat process. Okay.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Dayna, because I actually had another teacher that asked me that the other day. And so the way that I did it at first was I just had the kids type directly into the platform. However, you could have them type into a Google Doc and then copy and paste it, but just know that it's going to flag it as being pasted. But if you know that going ahead of time, it may not be that big of a deal for you.
Okay.
I was reading on their site and it just makes so much sense. It said, when you're practicing for a sport like basketball and you take the shot, but you don't find out till 2 or 3 days later if the basket went in, how is that helpful in getting better at the sport at all? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. But that's where we are, because writing, I would say, in the classroom was one of the hardest things to keep up on and give instant feedback, because you really are trying to be thoughtful with every piece of writing, and the effort that went into it. And how amazing. I hope we can see this at the elementary level, because I think there is so much potential district-wide for schools.
Yeah. So I've used this fourth grade and up, and I will say it worked great for those grades. I might try it with a 3rd grade group, depending on what kind of group you have. But anything below that, I probably would say not quite yet. I think that there's still a few things that need to be ironed out, which I believe will come. But right now, we just got to give it a little bit of time for everything to get caught up. And students do have 8 different attempts if you allow it to. So they can have up to 8 different attempts to get feedback and then supply it back to you, which again, just makes that whole writing process that much more engaging.
Yeah, it does.
Right. And it makes it less scary, right? Because it doesn't always, you don't want to only get feedback when the stakes are high. Like that's how we learn. I love it. I'm so glad you shared that with us. Now let's move on to Diffit. Tell us how you're using this, what you know about this, because I don't have any experience with this.
So this was another newer app that's been around. It's a little longer than Class Companion. I don't know this for a fact, but I feel like this is correct, so I just say it. I think Diffit is just short for differentiate it. And so basically what this does is it takes resources, perhaps maybe that you already have, maybe resources that you're looking for, and you basically take these resources into their platform, you upload them, and then the AI generates differentiated material depending on what your output is. So for example, let's say that you had maybe a PDF, or maybe you had let's not use that example. Let's say like a reading passage that you wanted to differentiate for different groups. You could take that reading passage, upload it onto Diffit, and then select, okay, I need to make sure that if I'm teaching 1st grade and I got a really high kid that's reading, I want to make sure that's on a 2nd grade level. You can then adjust that passage to a 2nd grade level simply by using the AI. Whereas before, as teachers, we would have to really think through that. It really takes the pressure pressure and time off of taking your resources and differentiating them. It does all the work for you. It's a free tool. There are paid options on this, but one of the things that the paid feature does, which may be worth it to a lot of teachers, is it also generates potential resources that you could use. So for example, back to that reading article, you could have that differentiated out. And then what you could also do is then provide different resources that are generated. So for example, I'm not sure if you guys use thinking maps, but like a bubble map that then would describe a character from the story, or maybe like a flow map that describes the sequence of the events. However that looks, but there's lots of different options, all by just uploading the content, and it kind of does it all on your own. So it's really, really neat. It's a free tool with paid options. But again, this one is also created by teachers too, which I think is important. These are some good folks that are behind this and that are in it for the right reasons.
Awesome.
I love that. Oh my gosh, learning something new every single time we meet with you, Joe. You guys are doing amazing things. We so appreciate you. We appreciate you taking time to chat with us and chat with the audience. Just, we're always constantly looking for ideas as educators to add to our toolbox. So what a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here. Dayna, I'll let you kind of send us out of here, and then we'll be ready to say bye.
Well, thanks again for helping us see so many tools through a different lens. We really appreciate it. And so many ways for our kids to create. I love it. It's just to extend that. And it's also multi-grades. I mean, we can do it in any grade, and we just have to find a way that fits our needs and what we're doing. We're going to be back next month with Cammie. So for Voice and Choice, which is another favorite of so many. And there's so many ways to use it that we've discovered recently. So that is exciting. So please check us out on all our platforms. We are so excited that we got to meet with you, Joe, and tell Kristen we said hi. Check out their books. We would love your feedback. We have a few books to give away. If you give us that feedback, we thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we can connect in the future with some other endeavors. So everyone, thanks so much. Yay STEM.
Yay STEM.
Thank you all.